Peyton. Nice to see you again on this beautiful day. And this time with a random quote, which goes like this: needing nothing attracts everything. Letting go of desires creates a space for abundance and opportunities to naturally flow into your life. So, which opportunities did you witness which flowed naturally into your life lately? Peyton, tell us about this.
Hmm.
What do you think about this
Hmm.
idea in total?
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful topic. And I would say some of the things that have flowed into my life recently have been new forms of connection, new centers of energy, and new things that are giving me good energy in my new environment. And the quote about allowing space, creating space from not wanting, from not desiring, it's a different mode that it's pointing us to. It's almost like a mode of trusting the universe to give us what we need rather than putting ourselves completely in charge as the sole decider and the sole executor of all the good that must, quote, happen or must come into our life or that we need or we think we need or we want or we desire and we crave and the things that we prescribe for ourselves versus the things that we allow the universe to bring us. And this quote is true when we pay attention. At least it is in my experience, in the sense that when I desire things, when I want to go out and get things, I make a plan, I think through it, I think linearly, I think small, and I think largely in terms of anchoring to what's currently here or what I see around me or the straightforward and once again linear possibilities that could be created. And this is something that, of course, we're going to go get groceries today. Of course, we're going to go fill up our car with gas. Of course, we're going to go and get something to repair something when it breaks, and so the going and getting the obtaining things out there, not a black and white problem. It's more so the posture of our brains. The posture of craving is the sort of root here that I think is worth examining. And what's true with craving, what's true with this posture of thirsting after something that we're fixated on out in the external world is one, it puts us in a state of lack. It puts us in a mindset of fixation on what we do not have that we want, rather than all of the things that we already have. It puts us in a certain mindset. Two, when we actually want something in a way that we aren't just orienting ourselves toward it, it's not a mere intention that we're acting upon by putting a plan in place and taking the next step, but actually our heart is wrapped up in craving. It changes how we're capable of being. It changes our way of being. If I want something from a person that I'm talking to, if I want something to happen from this conversation that I'm having with a person, then all of a sudden, I'm not going to be my most authentic and my most natural, free flowing, creative self. No, now when you want something and you're truly craving it with your heart, you become ulterior. You become, in some way, treating your interactions and your moments like they're a means to an end rather than an end in itself. And this, when we pay attention, does change our flow, it changes our creativity, and it really changes the way that we resonate with other people. If you think about leadership, for example, which I think that's probably the best example of this, when you're trying to lead somebody and you really want something from this person or you don't want something from this person. So let's say you are trying to lead somebody and you're really attached to them responding to this conversation in a particular way. You really want them to be inspired, or you really want them to change something they're doing, or you really want them to be motivated by what you say, or you really want them to orient themselves in a certain direction. Of course, you want to have intention when you're going into a conversation, but you don't want to have a tight craving or a firm grip on what you think you need to happen. Because if you go into it with an intention, but you're just authentic, you're spontaneous, you're loose, you will have such an electricity, a magnetism, and a spontaneous right fit, right moment capacity to say the right thing that needs to be said to do what this moment needs from you. But on the other hand, if you already know where you want this plane to land, if you already have this conversation mapped out in your head, if you're thinking about everything you needed to do to get from point A to your already decided destination of what you need or what you want in this conversation, you become fake, you become roboted, scripted, and far less capable of truly inspiring because people pick up on this. They feel if you're being candid and authentic and flowing, or they feel if you're sitting there and at some level you're ulterior. Even if they don't think it explicitly, this is something that's very intuitively recognizable to humans. So it shows up in our way of being. How else do you think this way of the craving actually closes us off from the possibilities of the universe or the wanting? How do you see that play out in your own life?
Every time I go into the world and I have this energy of neediness, I
Mm,
need to have this conversation now, or I need to get this outcome the way I want to have, or I need this particular piece of grocery, but maybe it's not there anymore. So every time I go out into the world with this desire and attachment to a certain kind of outcome, experience that the world responds in a totally different way versus when I go with the energy of just authentically self-loving and accepting and not minding what happens. With this kind of energy, the world responds in a totally different way. When I'm needy, it reacts a more like I want to push you away again because I feel you need me and I don't want people who need me. But when I'm indifferent, it goes like, "Oh, what is there?" So the resistance, which is the response of the world, is a totally different one. So if you flow, there's not much resistance against you because there's no extreme intention in wanting something, no extreme desire. But the more you let go of your desire, the more you are able to flow. And you said this is a difference in mindset as well. This is the scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset. And the more you can give, the more you think of yourself as being capable and able to provide value to other people, the more abundance you will create in your conversations, the more abundance you will create in your opportunities you think about and the possibilities which come to mind even. You will be much less limited in your thinking when you go out into the world with the mindset of everything is abundant and there is enough for everyone. Because you will realize opportunities and possibilities in a much wider range. The same thing is with banks. When do banks tend to lend you money? Uh, when you have enough, when you don't need money. But when you need money, banks won't lend you a dime, you know? They are like,
I can say this is extremely true. Well, and I've been on both sides of this, and it is truer than it should be.
they're like people giving out, not parachutes, but umbrellas, giving out umbrellas on sunny days only, but wanting them instantly back when it rains because the umbrellas are much more valuable. So this is a little bit, yeah. How do you relate to this when it's sunny and they give you an umbrella?
Well, quite literally my experience as an entrepreneur and a real estate investor, this has been so true. And even in it's funny. I learned early on that showing non-neediness even to these people, they very much pick it up in your way of being, even if your circumstances are just the same. And this applies in business, this applies in sales, it obviously applies in dating as well, as this sense of if I have the posture of I'm really trying to prove myself to you, then that comes across completely differently versus if I'm sitting here comfortable in my own self, not really asking myself and being self-conscious about how you're going to perceive me, but I'm actually sincerely, not as a show, but authentically evaluating, is this person something that would bring good energy and positivity or whatever into my life? If I'm actually in the seat over here assessing whether or not this is something or someone that I'm genuinely interested in, it just comes off a different way. It shows this signal of I am valuing the opportunity and the space that is in my life, and I'm not just looking to fill it with anything. And of course, this should not be done as theater of doing so. There's not something to fake it till you make it, in my opinion. It's something that either you authentically are in this way of being, or people will sniff it out if you are not actually in this posture in your inner world. And it has all to do with craving, all to do with wanting. Because if I'm sitting here and I'm craving this person ahead of me to react in a certain way, then even if I try to pretend that I'm being discerning and this and that, even if I try this and that, humans smell this stuff. It's so deep in our emotional intelligence intuition systems that we can't actually fake this, or at least for long. Well, at least I can't fake it, that's for sure. And in this evaluating this person in front of us and having this mindset, or at least this question, am I treating myself like I'm a product that I must sell to anybody, or am I treating myself as if I have limited space in my world and I want to be a curator of the humans and the opportunities and the things that are within my limited space?
That is a great way to look at it. It is like the switch from how can I show off what I am worth so that the people
Yes.
want to work with me, and then not saying that to yourself, but switching the perspective and saying, okay, is this actually a person that I want to work with? Because if you know what you can give and how valuable it is, what you can provide and offer, then it is like you handing out gold bars, and then rejection also won't hurt anymore because you know your worth, and then you know that this person just looks for something different. And the same thinking then goes into, okay, do I want to work with that person even? Is this a fit for the style that I want to enact and live up to in my own world? Yeah, as you said, to become the curator of artworks in form of relationships, of business relationships, yeah, all like that. So it is again seeing that your time here on earth is limited and your space in your mind is as well limited, and therefore letting go of opportunities that you think would fit, and maybe that prestige or your desire gets you into. Like maybe a person that doesn't really fit into your life, but you think, oh, she's cute, maybe I can pursue her. And then you invest energy based on your neediness and based on your desire. But it will turn out often that you will maybe lose an opportunity and miss an opportunity which would have been a fit,
Hmm.
much higher percent fit than the person you pursue just because you want and need to pursue. So if you let go and create a space for things, yeah, you can create the space for the real magic to happen if you let go of things which don't fit into what you want to curate in your life. You're the director.
And that requires trust, doesn't it? Because it doesn't give us this mediocre opportunity. It doesn't arrange our next 10 opportunities in front of us all at once, where we have the option of knowing everything that will be on the table and we can thoroughly evaluate and compare apples to apples and select this is the one. No, it works one at a time. We get presented with, so take romantic relationships, for example. We meet this one individual on one date, and we don't know who we might meet the week after. We don't know who we will meet the month after. We don't know who might come into our lives 6 months after, only if there is the space. Because obviously, if we go on a second date and a third date and we start a relationship with this person that's not really a fit, that person we meet in 6 months, we will have no space for. It will be a shut door. And so we must actually have the trust to say that, okay, I don't believe that this opportunity or this human or this whatever in front of me is everything that the universe has in store. And I trust the universe to bring me what is in store for me, given that I'm not going to cling on to something that is less than what I think is meant for me. And it does create the trust because we don't know when it will come. We don't know what form it will take. We don't know anything. And so if we're too caught into craving and clinging on to something, then we don't have the faith in order to receive what is ultimately meant for us. And this applies obviously not just to uh, romance, but also commonly it's applicable to material stuff. And so, an example of this is abundance and generosity, where if we're clinging on to every last dollar and we're viewing everything that we give to somebody else as something that we are poorer for, then we are going to have this way of being of scarcity. And we might think that, oh, I'm going to tip this waiter less, not because for any reason except I want to retain as much of my resources as possible and give as little as possible to the world. This entrains in our mind a scarcity mindset. If I see an opportunity, if I want to give something to somebody, but then I run a mental calculus and say, oh, but I would have an extra $40 in my checking account if I don't give this thing to this person, even if it feels right, then we are entraining in our mind a scarcity mindset. And all of these little everyday experiences, these opportunities for generosity, what even if it's time generosity, if it's money generosity, these are these are ways that we ingrain certain mindsets in our head. And if we have a scarcity mindset, vastly changes what is possible in our life. It vastly changes how we see and perceive potential opportunities. It vastly changes how we see potential. It changes what we can create. It changes what is available to us and what the universe will, in fact, bring us because we have eyes that are now open to abundance and willing to receive. And by this nature of a generous spirit, in fact, we are far more self-believing in being worthy of blessings from the universe as they come or when they come, not demanding of them and entitled to them, but worthy of them and open to receiving. And so this spirit of abundance is really impactful. And in fact, as I'm saying this, I'm becoming aware of the fact that I recognize this a lot when it comes to resources and the benefits of generosity, even on the generous individual, as it relates to opening up the universe to abundance. I'm realizing that I can be incredibly blind to the same mindset and an effect when it comes to time abundance. This is where I feel the most scarcity in my life, oftentimes. And so I recognize that many times I will be reluctant to share or give of my time. And in fact, this is leading to more and more entrenching of this scarcity mindset toward time, even if I have an abundance mindset toward resources. So this is, as I'm kind of talking out loud, this is a cool opportunity that I see to apply this mindset that I have of abundance over here toward this other domain of my life where I really need it. How do you think about this abundance scarcity paradigm and the ironic way or the counterintuitive way that, in fact, being more giving oftentimes leads to us receiving far, far more and maybe far, far more than we get?
Well, in trusted and long term relationships, generosity is a system which works. It is like in the basic principles of capitalism, where experts of a narrow domain save up much more resources and time when they create more of what they know how to create versus when other people who need that specific part would create it by themselves without the expertise. So if you combine these two together, in total they have more and save more time. And the same applies to specific generosity in long-term relationships, in my opinion, because you can be generous with what you have abundance of. So, but you will never have the same level of abundance in all the domains of your life. But maybe sometimes it's advice, maybe sometimes it's resources, time, or a place to stay, whatever. But if you share everything you have, then if you're generous with what you have or specific knowledge, generous with your specific knowledge, then what comes back is maybe sometime in the future when you need something, the other person has a specific skill set, a specific set of resources or access or network, whatever. It will get back and the other person won't lack it, but you will have more. So it's this self-reinforcing positive loop of added value because of generosity of your network and of the people you have a long-term relationship with. And this is an abundance loop. That's why generosity works in the same way as the principles of capitalism show and applied. Yeah.
The last mechanism I want to throw out there too is as it relates to how do we receive more by wanting less? It is creativity. Creativity does not flow in its best forms from motivated craving. Creativity flows from intrinsic motivation. Creativity is exploratory and it is inherently a faithful exercise, an activity where we are following, where this creative light within us is leading us. We are not actually dictating the next move, the next move, the next move of the formula. That cuts us off from creativity. And in fact, needing things to arrive in a certain way, wanting, craving, and this posture that comes from it. This is what shuts off the creative valve a lot of times. Creativity does not flow from needing. Creativity is something that we must enter a posture of almost giving ourselves to what is in front of us rather than craving this as a mere means to an end. And from creativity, of course, this is what where many of the greatest blessings and much of the greatest abundance and much of the greatest value that we can give the world and that the world gives us stems from. And with that, I will just leave with an intention and ask for yours. My intention this week is to one, to bring a bit more abundance mindset to time, even as I'm in this sort of stance of feeling like I'm rushing from thing to thing to thing. How can I apply some of these things that I can apply in this domain or in this domain also to this domain where I don't tend to see it? And the last is just to have this inner posture of trust and faith, and of saying that I have all that I need. I trust the universe to give me what is meant for me, and I don't need to prescribe and demand and force and cling to everything that I want the world to give me. I can trust it to give me what is meant for me. I can give with no demands of immediately receiving reciprocal, and I can just have this big picture mindset of whatever is meant for me will come along if I give it the space and if I open myself to it. How about you? What are your intentions for the week or any closing thoughts?
As if our mind is the interface where which we can operate in the world. And if we have the scarcity mindset, it's like a tightening up the mind. If we have an abundance mindset, it's like opening it up. And it's also influencing how you can operate into the world. And you can also dilate time. You can operate with time. You can slow down your time. And like one famous investor said, I meditate 20 minutes every day, and if I don't have time, I meditate for 40 minutes. This points towards the idea that the time pressure and the constraints and the squeezing and the tightening all happens inside your mind. And with that, you can also change how you interact with the world. So my intention for this week is realize more when I contract in my mind and then open it up again and sit down, take a step back and open myself up and give the space, even in a meditation for 10 minutes, give the space for time to slow down again. Because it's all about your own mind. And with that, Peyton,
Mm,
have a great day. Appreciate you, bro.
appreciate you too, my friend. I wish you a spacious week. I will talk to you on the next one.
Likewise. See ya.